I would say Caicedo at the minute. I've watched him this season. He's been unbelievable. He's brilliant last season. I think he's the best midfielder in the league. I think he's absolutely fantastic breaking up play. He's athletic. He's good on the ball. You know, he can play on the half turn. You see the other day he can score goals as well. He has been monstrous for Chelsea. And this, you know, now people see him as a holding midfielder, a sitting midfielder. And, you know, you liken him to Makaleli and players like that. But he can play higher up the pitch. You know, he can make runs in the box. He can get on the end of things, and he can strike a football and put it in the top corner, as you've seen. So for me, right now, Caicedo's the best midfielder in the league.
OK, well, that's quite handy for this debate. Sky Sports have partnered with Finalysis, an app where passionate fans share their opinions on their clubs. By the way, if you want to represent your club, scan that QR code or visit the Sky Sports app for more details. Right, let's speak to Arsenal fan Luke Henry and Newcastle United supporter Matthew Eltringham. Right, so we've already established that Jamie O'Hara is going for Moises Caicedo here. Luke, I'm assuming, is going for Declan Rice. And Matthew, I'm assuming, is going to be going for Sandro Tonali. Right, OK, Luke, we will start with you then. Why is Declan Rice the best all-round midfielder in the Premier League?
Before I start, I just want to say, morning, Jamie. Hope you're good.
He works for TalkSport. He absolutely talking garbage, he does.
Hey, well, Luke, did you hear who Jamie O'Hara said the best foreign manager in the Premier League ever was just a few minutes ago?
I didn't, actually. I said what midfielder he said, and I'm not surprised he's gone with Caicedo, but I will probably go with Declan Rice, and it's not a surprise. And you mentioned it there, Jamie, about the evolution of a player and Caicedo. We've seen that with Declan Rice over the last 2.5, 3 seasons when he got bought by Arsenal. Many people saw him at West Ham as the holding six midfielder. Arteta saw a new side of him. In his first season, he got 7 goals and 8 assists, and he was an unbelievable signing for us in that first season. And he's gone on leaps and bounds now. We're talking about a guy that can play the number 6, a guy that can play the number 8. And as we've got a Newcastle fan on here, in Matthew, I'd have to go to the game 2 weeks ago because Declan Rice was outstanding. And he played in a variety of different positions on that day as well. He was allowed to play the ball through. And look, I'm going to be fair to Newcastle because every time we talk about midfielders, sometimes I think we get bogged down in the individual because I look at Newcastle fans will have the right to say that their midfield has probably been one of the best in the last 2 seasons with Bruno Tonali and Joe Linton. But if you talk about individuals, I'm not sure that a Newcastle fan, I might be wrong, would be saying, I take Declan Rice over Tonali, because they wouldn't, because they look at Tonali. And I don't watch at Arsenal and go, well, Declan Rice is outstanding, but I think Sandro Tonali would be in the team. I think if you made a team, they'd both be in it, and maybe Joe Linton might be the one you have to sacrifice, so that you've got Bruno, Tonali, and Rice. I think that's a fair.
Well, Matthew, I've got a big issue with your pick, and nothing to do with who I support. It's because how can you have Tonali as the best midfielder in the Premier League when he's not even the best midfielder in your team?
Oh, Sandro Tonali for me is without a doubt the best midfielder in our team. I know Bruno, through emotion, through passion, through how he links up our play, how he wins so many of his duels, which is a stat that goes massively under the radar. Last season he clocked up more ground than I think any other midfielder in the Premier League, which again, when you watch Bruno play, that goes under the radar. So I'm not for a second saying that Bruno is not of high quality and so important to us as our captain. He's an adopted Geordie, but Sandro Tonali for me in terms of quality and in terms of a player who week in, week out goes 8.5, 9 out of 10 in almost all matches, even when Newcastle generally haven't played well, there's been a couple of occasions this season. Sandro Tonali is just the engine. He covers so much ground. He's got a great shot on him, and that's something that I would probably say needs to add a little bit more to his game in terms of the goals he brings. But my God, he's been unlucky on a few occasions on that front. He's just, like I say, it's the consistency in high-quality performances. And I saw what Paul Scholes said, and I know, obviously, any Arsenal fan's going to say that Declan Rice is a better player. I love Declan Rice. He always plays well when he comes up to St James's Park, annoyingly. Even when he was at West Ham, he used to. But I think Sandro Tonali, I would probably class him in a higher quality than Declan Rice, just because of how he can dictate a match, but also just in terms of the ground he covers as well.
Jamie, are we missing someone quite obvious here in Rodri?
Well, yeah, look, Rodri, when he's fit, is probably the best. His injuries have, hampered him all last season. He had a terrible injury. He's coming back and he's picking up knocks. It's hard to come back from that type of injury. Is Paulinho in with a shout here, lads, or what?
Yeah, good point.
You know, Paulinho's been unbelievable for Tottenham, and you know, he don't get the credit he deserves because he's at Tottenham. You know, and you know, we talk, but Paulinho's been amazing. He was at Bayern Munich and didn't really get a sniff, but everyone wanted him.
Yeah, with all respect, Jamie, we're talking about the Premier League's best midfielders. I don't think many people will go around and talk about João Palhinha being better than Moises Caicedo, Declan Rice.
He's in with a
Sandro
conversation
Tonali.
this season, no, Lukey? No?
But aren't we talking about the best midfielder over the last couple of seasons, right? I don't think you could be the best over 7 games. If we are, we'd be talking about a lot of new signings so far in the Premier League season. That would be the best. You know, we look at Miller's Kirkers at Liverpool and compare him to Bournemouth's new left-back in Treffer. People saying he'd be a better left-back than Kirkers when it's a very small sample size. I'm not taking anything away from Paulinho, but I actually think Bergval's probably your best midfielder this season. I might be wrong.
Paulinho's been the best player. I'm just putting it out there. I agree.
Yeah.
I think Caicedo's the best midfielder. You can't argue against, you know, Declan Rice. He's up there. I think, you know, Tonali's brilliant. I agree with you, Tom, though. I think Bruno's, you know, an amazing football player. But I can't take Luke seriously. Honestly, you got Lukey on. He would rather have Kai Havertz in front of Isak. He is the most biased Arsenal fan I've ever seen in my life.
I don't think I've ever said that.
No, it's embarrassing, mate. He sits in the office, he cheers at everyone. Honestly, he's the most biased Arsenal fan I've ever seen.
I love how
I
he
appreciate
defended
that.
himself by saying, no, I did not say that. I did not say that. 'Cause there's loads of honourable mentions here, by the way, like Bruno Fernandes, Alexis McAllister, Morgan Gibbs-White, Wharton, Zubamendi, Reinders, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch,
Loads
Rodri,
of good players
Palhinha
in the
there as
Premier
well.
League.
But with you, Matthew, being a Geordie lad yourself, would you swap Tonali for Elliot Anderson?
No, I wouldn't swap Tonali for Elliot Anderson. I think Elliot Anderson has come on absolute leaps and bounds, and it pains me to see him doing so well. But I'm also delighted for him at the same time, weirdly, just because he's come through our academy. I think he is going to go on to settle himself in that England team. And I think England's midfield might be built around Elliot Anderson. I mean, I watched him on Sunday. Fantastic. I love how he comes to seek the ball, but I think Sandro Tonali got one up on him. And I know Newcastle got one up on a very bad Forest side at the moment in general, but I think Tonali was cut above Elliot Anderson. And there was a couple of Newcastle fans concerned, would Anderson come back and dictate things? Sandro, again, he ran the show. He really did. He almost got himself a goal. And again, it's...
One of your midfielders did get themselves a goal, and you've still got Tonali ahead of him.
Well, I did. I said that after. I know a lot of other Newcastle fans did as well. Like, Bruno was great, and he grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck in the second half. He was instrumental in winning the penalty because of our high press, closing down on Elliot Anderson, ironically. But it's Sandro Tonali who, when I'm watching the game minute by minute and play by play, is just so silky in everything he does. He's dictating everything. And him and Bruno, if we can see a Bruno performance like what we saw on Sunday, and against Liverpool when we lost 3-2 when he was brilliant. If if Bruno can match that 8.59 out of 10 every single week, you're looking at two of the best midfielders as a partnership there in the league.
I know you're not going to say this, so I'm going to ask a different question. Would you take Declan Rice ahead of Bruno? Because obviously you just talked about their pressing from the front, which Declan Rice can do, very good on the ball. And obviously it doesn't feel like you're going to take Tonali out of your side. So would you take Declan Rice in your midfield, and would it be the expense of your captain, Bruno?
No, I wouldn't swap Declan Rice for Bruno now, because I think suddenly then you'd get an imbalance in the team, and what Bruno offers to our side in terms of that pivot at times, in terms of his dual wins, which again is a stat that I think always goes underrated with Bruno, because when you watch him, it almost doesn't look that way. I think there would be a massive imbalance there, because I would put Declan Rice and Sandro Tonali in the same category, which is why it's a great conversation with Caicedo as well, of how they cover so much ground and dictate things, and sort of quite a central point for their team.